Rosevere. And today we're chatting. Well, I chatted to him the other day, and he's going to talk about his synthwave composition for an audio drama called Gr8 And Terrible. So here's the intro, and as we go, I'm going to be taking this pink stuff and basically adapting it to all of the blue stuff, which is all the sound effects and the music and the colorful stuff. Pink stuff is the voiceover. So here's how it sounds so far.
The piece of music we're listening to now in the background is called Discovery.
There's a nice kick in with the snares.
It's a retrowave soundtrack from a fiction podcast called Gr8 And Terrible by A.R. Oliveri.
There's a nice kick in with the snares.
It's a retrowave soundtrack from a fiction podcast called Gr8 And Terrible by A.R. Oliveri.
There's a nice kick in. Oh, alright, hang on a sec. Just sorting out some stream issues quickly. Oh. Sorting out some stream issues. Oh, I've turned the display off. There we go. Stream issues. All right, from the top. So we all right, from the top. So we all right, from the top. So jeez, that is annoying. Okay. Today I'm editing episode 84 of How I Make Music, a podcast that I run, and this episode features a guest called Rosevere, who's a Canadian composer and radio guy. And all of the pink stuff is his voiceover, all his interview material.
Scored by Zach Robinson
And all the blue stuff is the music that he sent me, along with other influences like Jean-Michel Jarre and other 80s influences that went into the making of this track that we're talking about. As you can see, I've done most of the sort of donkey work, splitting the usable audio from the unusable audio. So I've taken out all the parts of his voiceover that I can't use, and I've got these regions here in Reaper called influences, guitar, bass line, drums, Rocket Max, and that allows me to quite easily reorder some of the parts to make it a more engaging interview experience. So the fun stuff happens now. This is always my favorite part. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to import all of the stems, which I've got on this other screen, into, let's just give one breaker there, cool. Import them all into separate tracks. Reaper kindly names them all for you. It looks like I've made a mistake. Let's undo that. First thing I need to do is duplicate a couple of these. Now we should have enough. Okay, let's try that again. What we're doing is importing all of the separate parts into Reaper so that when he starts talking about them, I can solo them out. When he talks about a single part, I can solo it out. Okay, so they should all be synced up. I hope they're all synced up. Yeah, they are. First thing I'm going to do is just link them all with the letter G to kind of make them treatable as one. Oops. Okay, wait. Beats position link right, yeah, that's right. And then take them down sort of 12 dB so that they don't all come blaring. Okay. All right, back to the start. Intro.
The piece of music we're listening to now in the background is called Discovery.
Some snare.
It's a retrowave soundtrack from a fiction podcast called Gr8 And Terrible by A.R. Oliveri.
Cool.
Today we'll break it down and get into what retrowave is and how and why this piece was put together.
I just want to raise the volume of that loss.
How and why this was put together.
I need to take that up because it's a little bit low. So I'm going to crank it 12 dB in the clip itself and then drop the level here.
Why this piece was put together.
It's too loud.
Why this piece was put together. This piece was put together.
Yeah, especially with monophone audio, you need to crank everything.
You're listening to How I Make Music. You're listening to How I Make Music, where audio drama composers get to tell their own stories. Every Wednesday, we break apart a song, soundtrack, or composition and take a trip into how it was made.
Yeah.
My name is Rosevere. I'm a composer in Charlottetown, PEI in Canada, and this is How I Make Music.
Okay, and then you can kind of start.
Welcome back to How I Make Music. Welcome back to How I.
Okay, what I like at this point, I've started to include audio drama clips under that statement. Welcome back to How I Make Music. So I'm going to take the one that I have, this audio drama clip. I think there's a space for it down. No, there isn't. Okay, let's just duplicate that guy, and I'm going to stick it in here. Another editing trick that I've started to employ is to cascade the parts that you're using. All the clips that you're using, you'll notice there's a diagonal line sort of going from top left to bottom right. And that helps because you know that the further forward in time you are, the closer to the beginning you are, the higher up it's going to be. So you spend less time hunting for stuff, basically. So I'm going to stick that audio drama clip right where it belongs. One across and one down from the opening music. And I'm going to start to fade it in right actually as the music fades out and while he's starting to speak. Let's see if it sounds good.
They are so wildly reductionist, it pains me.
Welcome back to How I Make Music, episode 84.
Nor am I an outcast.
Discovery by
Sure,
me,
I've
Lee
smoked
Rosevere.
pot.
Thanks for
Gr8
listening.
And Terrible is written
Welcome back.
So you mentioned there's like a 1 minute promo at the end of each episode.
Wildly reductionist, it
Actually got invited.
serious.
Crystal right in front of
Welcome back to How I Make Welcome back to How I Make Music, episode 84. Discovery by me, Lee Rosevere. Thanks for listening in.
Jane, answer me.
Oh,
Terrible.
Jane, answer me.
Okay, that's quite of a... So I got a problem now, and that is that the music that I've just finished playing fades out, and then the audio drama clip that I want to use to showcase where the music was used in its actual production is the same music. So it fades out and fades back in. It doesn't sound good. So I don't have a choice. I can't use the audio drama clip in its entirety. What I can do is use this intro kind of thunder roll and then take this phrase, Jane, answer me, and then crank the reverb up. Audio drama clips in my project go to the music bus, even though they're not music. So I've got this reverb bus, and I've recently discovered how to show the automation lanes inside the actual it just makes the layout easier. So what I'm going to do here is crank up the reverb. Oh shit, I didn't know you could do that. Nice. You can just kind of draw. I wonder what that's good for. Is that like a resampling thing? I've got to figure that out. Sorry, I just want to figure this out quickly. What happens if I do that? I don't know. Oh, whatever the selected clip is, it draws. So if I do that, and I just draw it on there.
Me, Lee Rosevere.
That's incredible. I've never seen this before.
Episode 84. Discovery. Episode 84. Discovery by me, Lee.
Alright, good to know. So control, click, drag actually just draws out whatever the selected clip is playing at that time. Okay, we're at Jane. So I tend to jump around a lot, but hopefully you're following. There we go. I'm cranking the reverb, which is the effects reverb parameter on my music bus, which should make her go, Jane, answer me, and sound like she's in a cave.
Jane, answer me.
No, nothing happening there. That might be because of this routing. My mixer is on the other screen, and that, but the routing is correct, which means that something's wrong with this, and I know what it is. The green line is the volume of this effects bus, so I have to take the volume all the way up, and now you'll hear it.
Jane, answer me.
Gr8 And Terrible is a fiction.
I like that.
Jane, answer me.
Gr8 And Terrible is a fiction podcast about a high school student that stumbles upon an ancient curse that grants immortality, but there's a catch. Every full moon she must kill someone, anyone, or she'll die.
Okay, I've got an idea here. I'm going to contact the audio drama creator. VO only. So I'm going to contact AR Oliviera and just say, listen, if you can, send me the voice, and then I'll input the voice there without the music in the background. It'll sound a lot better.
Anyone, or she'll die.
I like this, but not the anyone. So let's take anyone out. Oops, what have I done? I have created a monster. Okay, well, here's a good idea to show you. So you see all these automation lanes, the green, the turquoise, and the purple. If I click and go show automation in, where is it? Oh, you click on an automation lane, and then you say show visible track envelopes in media lane. It's going to overlap the audio, which is much more like concise for editing and stuff. Only problem is you don't know what's what, but if you hover over it, you can see it says frequency band 1, frequency band 4, envelope volume. So if you know what your lanes are that you're using, that's actually a way better way to do it. Okay, moving forward, we are here. Jane, answer me.
Thanks for listening in.
Jane, answer me.
That's
Gr8 And Terrible is a fiction podcast
You know what? Let's just keep the music going there.
to How I Make Music, episode 84. Discovery by me, Lee Rosevere. Thanks for listening in.
Jane, answer me.
Gr8 And Terrible
A little bit of a pause needed here. Timing is important. I'm going to give it another second.
podcast about Thanks for listening in.
Jane, answer me.
Gr8 And Terrible is a fiction podcast about a high school student that stumbles upon an ancient curse that grants immortality, but there's a catch. Every full moon she must kill someone or she'll die. Or she'll die.
And then maybe a clip of her actually killing someone.
I was always a big fan of the 80s in general, as being a child of the 80s and growing up and listening to all the pop music that was around at the time, including a lot of my first introduction to the synth world was probably Jean-Michel Jarre, the Equinox album that I owned on an 8.
Okay, that's blaring, so let's bring that in sooner so we can...
Kill someone or she'll die. I was always a big fan of the 80s in general, as being a child of the 80s and growing up and listening to
Still
all
too
the
loud.
pop music that was around at the time, including a lot of the synth artists. My first introduction to the synth world was probably Jean-Michel Jarre, the Equinox album that I owned on an 8-track, played it a lot.
Played it a lot. Take a listen. Let's get a take a listen. At the end of every episode, I ask the contributors to record some ad-libs. Not ad-libs, but pickups. These. Take a listen.
Here, take a listen. Here, take a listen.
There we go, got it. We go back to here, and we stick it where it belongs, which is right here.
I owned on an 8-track, played it a lot. Here, take a listen. I owned on an 8, played it a lot. Take a listen. Then moved on to
Actually, I like it without
Played it a
taking
lot.
some- just like that. Okay, like these YouTube rips tend to be blaring because they're commercially mastered, so I always got to take them down like 25 dB.
then moved on to listening to pop.
Now I like to time these transitions and make them a little bit like sort of musical. Oh, there is a problem. I've forgotten to turn down the reverb send on this part here. So actually, Jean-Michel Jarre, let's get you back down where you belong.
One or she'll die. My first introduction to the synth world was probably Jean-Michel Jarre, the Equinox album that I owned on an 8-track, played it a lot. Then moved on to listening to pop songs that were hits at the time, such as Harold Faltermeyer's Axel F. Then moved on to listening to pop songs that were hits.
Okay, let's make this more of a moment. So I'm going to fade out Jean-Michel Jarre with more reverb. And there was a cool way to do this that I can't seem to find anymore. Okay. Dish, 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 dish. Here we go. That's better. A little bit earlier.
Then moved on to listening to pop songs that were hits at the time, such as Harold Faltermeyer's Axel F. Paul Hardcastle had a big hit with the song 19, which led me to the rest of his songs. Fly By Night by him was one that I listened to a lot that has a big influence on the way I write music. On the way I write music. Take a listen. The way I write music. Take a listen.
We'll have to do a little bit of a volume boost there. Okay, another way we could do this, instead of dropping these source audio levels down, what we could do is what I should actually be doing, and that is to adjust the sidechain compression threshold. So let's just get to that. It's going to be under music recomp Here it is. So
which is Harold
you
Faltermeyer.
notice when the voice comes in, the music goes down.
Which is Harold Faltermeyer's Axel.
Loud.
Then
Soft.
moved on to listening to pop songs that were
That's
hits
great.
at the time,
Leave it
such
like
as
that.
Harold,
Same here.
Jean-Michel Jarre, or Sheldon. I was always a big fan of the
Cool. I should have done that in the first place. All good. Let's take that up to 15 dB. Boom.
as being
Loud. Okay. Yeah, I dig this track. I've actually just gone and got that track for my own DJ collection because it's banging and it's from like the 80s.
influence on the way I write music. Take a listen. Take
It's
a
so
listen.
groovy. It's like, I don't know, Miami or something.
The way I write music. Take a listen.
I almost don't want it to end, but I'm afraid the editing must continue, everybody. So, moving on. The end of Pull Hardcastle, Fly Me, what's it called? Take Me Away.
It has a big influence on the Write by him was one that I
Fly
loved.
By Night. Okay, let's keep that
The
going.
entire retrowave genre I rediscovered in 2012 or so by an artist named D.A.D. He put out an album called
Let's see if we can do a mix on these two, because that'd be pretty cool. What are the
by
tempos?
an artist named D.A.D. He put out
Okay, there's a snare, so let's try and sync up this snare. This is where it gets to like musical editing.
by an art.
Okay, I want to find the 4.
The entire retrowave genre
There's the one.
I rediscovered in
1,
2012
2,
or so
3, 4,
by an artist named D.A.D. He put out an album. A.D. He put out an
No, wait. I've got an idea.
D. He put out an album called
There you go. You see, there's
The Const.
there's the one. Now we want to find the one on here.
And one song on there in particular.
Okay, let's get DAD halfway through the track. There's the one. Okay, now we've got a 1 meets a 1. Now we just got to do the fine tuning of the
He
sync.
put out an album called
We definitely don't need the voice for all this. It's going to be a bit slow, I think. Yeah, so still, it's not a bad cut. This guy needs to come down a good, whatever, 10 dB. Let's take it down to minus 15. Because this DAD one is a recent release, a recent commercial release, versus the one from the 80s. It's obviously going to be louder because everything's been getting louder progressively since like the 60s. 2, 3, 4. I think we might be able to do a cut. Why don't we do a little special moment here? I'm going to add an EQ to... okay, firstly I've got a screen open on the other screen. And I'm going to add an EQ to... so, it's on this one. Now let's do... we need to enable the low cut, not low shelf, high shelf. Not high shelf, yeah, high shelf can turn into a, okay, so channel 1, and then we want to enable the high shelf as the cut happens. So this is like, or disable it, sorry. Okay, fine. Alright. What the heck just happened? Hang on, something's wrong here. Oh, it's channel 4. Okay, I'm on the wrong one. Okay, that's fine. I want it to be a high pass. Yeah, that's kind of like a DJ cut. Although I prefer it to go from the other way around, to be honest. Clear and delete this. I'll leave it open, fine. Now we want to get... what I'm trying to do is create a high pass filter. Gain high shelf. And at this point we want to... there you go, that's what I'm after. Nope, that's not what I'm after. I'm after... okay, it mustn't be a high shelf. Tripping out here, man. Okay, disarm all track envelopes. Hide all track envelopes. Let's try this again. What we want is a high cut That's a low pass filter. And I want the low pass filter to... Oh, that's right, I had the gain instead of the frequency. The low pass filter's gain. No, we want a high pass filter, not a low pass filter. Let's try that again. Oh, right, I haven't actually created it. That's why. You have to first create a high pass filter and then go to frequency high pass 4. That's what I'm after. There you go. That's quite a nice little intro too. Yeah, let's do it like that. We're going to bring that boogie in, son. Yeah. Just see how this sounds.
Such as Harold, a big influence on the way I write music. Take a listen. Into a lot that has a... take a listen.
Okay, I want to move this guy up, so...
Then moved on to... it has a big influence on the way I write music. Take a listen.
Go.
On the way I write music. Fly By Night by him was one that I listened to a lot that has a big influence on the way I write music. Take a listen. Fly By Night by him was one that I listened to a lot. Take a listen. To a lot. Take a listen.
There you go. That's a nice little moment for the cut. So here we go.
Lot. Take a listen.
Just a little bit late.
Take a listen.
And we want this to be maxed out. So.
Listen to a lot. Take a listen. Fly By Night by him was one that I listened to a lot. Take a listen.
Take a listen.
Take a listen. Take a listen.
Got to bring it in a little bit more.
Paul Hardcastle had a big hit with Axel F. Paul Hardcastle.
Can lose the I'm just gaining a bit of
Axel F. Paul Hardcastle had a big hit with the song 19, which led me to the rest of his songs. Fly By Night by him was one that I listened to a lot. Paul Hardcastle had a big hit with the song 19.
Okay, we can move that
The
one up.
song 19. Fly By Night by him was one that I listened to a lot. Take a listen. Fly By Night by him was one that I listened to a lot. Take a listen.
Okay, now we can actually have some breathing room. So what I'm
Big
doing is
hit
I'm
with
trying
the
to
song
time the vocals.
Castle had a F. Paul Hardcastle had a big hit with the song 19. Fly By Night by him was one that I listened to a lot. Take a listen.
There you go. Now we've got the time. Okay. Right. So you can see what kind of like detail goes into this work when you want to get it right, when you want to do a good job of the editing, which is mostly timing, actually.
That I listened to a lot. Take a listen.
That's fine. I like that. And at the very end here, we want to do the opposite and basically raise the filter.
He put out an album called The Construct, and one song on there in particular called Love Will Make You Stay really caught my ear and went one song on there in particular called Love Will Make You Stay really caught my ear and went Stay really caught my
ear.
Stay really caught my ear really caught my ear on there in particular called Love Will Make You Stay really caught my ear. What is this? My ear and went, what is this whole retro wave thing? I'm not wave thing. What wave thing? What is this?
Okay, that's cool. Just a little bit loud. Okay, bringing that down.
What is this whole album called The Construct? And one song on there in particular called Love Will Make You Stay really caught my ear and went, what is this whole retro wave thing?
Yeah, what is this whole retro wave thing? What I'm thinking here, just for kicks, is to firstly show the automation and then just smash it up here. Let's see how that sounds. So now I've got not music, sorry. I want the vocal effects to be pumped over here. So I'm going to take the delay. I'm going to add a point here. Oh, come on, man. There we go.
Retro wave thing. Whole retro wave thing.
And again, we've got the volume that needs to come up. So here we go. Boom, boom. What is this whole retro wave thing?
Retro wave thing.
Okay, I think that's reverb. What is this? Envelope delay. Oh, that's the timing of the delay. So that should actually just be up the whole time. Boom. And then this is the feedback of the delay. So that must come up over here. I'm trying to create a delay effect on his voice.
Retro wave thing.
Yeah.
This whole... What is this whole retro wave thing? What is...
And now there's an issue, which is the filter is still quite low. So we've got to add that, pump that up.
What is this whole retro wave thing?
No, that's not the one.
What is this whole retro...
What is this, a flanger? Got so many filters on here, I don't know what the heck is going on.
What is this whole retro wave thing?
Okay, why don't we do ourselves a favor and get this chain FX Vox. We don't need that filter.
What is this whole retro wave thing?
Thing. That's kind of what I'm going for, is thing. Okay, wet protoverb, we can take that down. We don't need that.
Retro wave thing.
The nitty gritty, kids, hey? Wait here.
Retro wave thing. Retro wave thing.
Okay, I think I've got it. The tempo delay is way too high.
Retro wave thing.
And
Retro wave thing. Retro wave thing. Retro wave thing. Retro wave thing. Retro wave thing.
can't get it to work.
Retro wave thing.
Because why?
Retro wave thing. Retro wave thing. Retro wave.
Output dry must be 0.
Retro wave thing.
And then what's the reason for it not? Oh, it's a 6-second delay, that's why. Okay, so that's way higher than it needs to be. Feedback's going to turn into an infinite loop. We don't want that. Here we go. Alright, so that goes all the way down.
Retro wave thing. Retro wave.
There you go. Okay, cool.
Whole retro wave thing. Retro wave thing. Retro wave. What is this? What is?
Okay, ping pong width, we want it like that.
Whole retro wave thing. Retro wave thing.
Okay, now we can take this down even further to like 200 milliseconds.
Whole retro wave thing.
That sounds a bit more.
What is this whole retro wave thing? I'm like, I lived through this once already. So
Yeah, that's it. Now we're getting a bit spacey.
what is this whole retro wave thing? I'm like, I lived through this once already, so it's kind of cool to have it to go through it again. Because
See, I want to get more into vocal, like wacky vocal effects on this show, psychedelic. That's why I changed the intro title to like, instead of investigate the insights into how it was made, I've changed it to take a trip into how it was made, because this, to be honest, no one knows or really, cares too much about a guy called Lee Rosevere in the same way that no one cares too much about a guy called John Bartman's work. It's about an audio listening experience. It's about giving something to people, whether or not they're musicians, and letting them escape their boring lives for a minute. That's what it's about. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Let's see how it sounds.
on there in particular called "Love Will Make You Stay" really caught my ear and went, "What is this whole retro wave thing?"
Okay, it's good, but I just need to crank it up a little bit in volume, yeah.
What is this whole retro wave thing? Wave
I'm gonna
thing.
I'm gonna crank up the feedback too. Just there's definitely way too much going on here though. I need to clean this up a little bit. The tempo is fine, the feedback can turn into there we go.
This whole retro wave thing.
That's the problem with delay.
This whole retro wave thing.
That's the problem with delay. It's gonna start to really crank up unless you are very in control.
What is this whole retro wave thing?
Okay, that's cool, except it's just a bit late. Here we go.
This whole retro wave thing.
Good, but now not late enough.
This whole retro wave thing. Whole retro wave thing. Whole retro wave thing. Retro wave thing. Whole retro wave thing.
This is
Whole retro wave thing.
That's better.
I'm just like, I lived through this once already, so it's kind of cool to have it to go through it again because it's just, you know, firing all the nostalgia synapses.
Oh, you can turn the volume down.
I'm just like, I lived through this once already, so it's kind of cool to have it to go through it again because it's just, you know, I'm just like, I lived through this once already, so it's kind of cool to I'm just like, I lived through this once already, so it's kind of cool to have it to go through it again because it's just, you know, firing all the nostalgia synapses. I'm just like, I lived through this once already, so it's kind of cool to have it to go through it again because it's just. I lived through this once already, so it's kind of cool to have it to go through it again because it's just to go through it again. Kind of cool to have it
To go through it again.
to go through it again. So it's kind of to go through it again. So it's kind of to go through it. Cool to go through it again because it's just, you know, firing all the go through it again because it's just, you know, firing all the again because it's just, you know, firing all the nostalgia synapses. Because it's just firing all the.
Okay, I've got an idea. Let us sing first because it's
It
just
again because it's just, you know, firing all the nostalgia synapses.
let it do a bit of singing in between.
Again because it's just, you know, firing all the nostalgia synapses.
Those gaps, my friend, are what make this show what it is. It's like these pauses in between the verbal diarrhea that most podcasts seem to fall victim to. Breaks. And I can kill all of these lanes, make it clean it up a bit. Nice. I do like that. Cool.
But yeah, I was really taken with the whole sound and how it's changed and what it was doing in the current time and how it can sound somewhere in between the past and the future at the same time. So I was really taken with that and taken with that and started listening to a lot of it. And then decided that the past and the future at the same time.
Yeah.
I was really taken with that and started listening to a lot of it and then decided that I think I'm going to try making some of this music.
I think I am too, bro. This guy has inspired me to get a little bit more retro.
So retrowave is a bit of everything.
Okay, we've done enough of this track now. So we're gonna do a fade out and then also a nice long music channel reverb swell. Okay, wait, I've got to figure this out. You add a dot, you add a point like that, and now when I want to add another point, it doesn't let me. And I used to be able to do this, but I don't know how anymore. You've got to actually grab it. It's so annoying. Okay.
So retrowave.
Should we do one of those filter cuts? Actually, yeah, I'm gonna take this EQ from that earlier DJ cut, that DJ mix sort of moment that we created, and I'm gonna add it to the music bus, which means I now have the ability to do a high pass transition. Except it has to start Down there.
Some of this music.
No, what have I done wrong?
Some of this music.
Oh, I'm on. There you go.
Some of this music.
It's me too. But frequency low pass 4 is visible. Why is it not obeying? Not obeying. Why is it not obeying? Why, oh why is it not obeying? Annoying. I am trying to fix a small problem here. The problem is that the EQ frequency of the low pass filter, which is I haven't actually added it as an automatable function. How very irritating. Let us do that now by I'm going to change low shelf to high pass. Yeah, that's it. Now it should say I'm on the wrong. There we go. That explains it. There we go. Done. This can die, and this, the music channel, we need to add only the most recent one, which is a high pass frequency. There it is. Okay, what I'm trying to do is cut this.
Let's try making some of this music. So retrowave is a bit of everything, the past and the future all brought together with the sounds of the 80s, but a lot of them have been amped up for current times. They're mostly associated with movies from the 80s, like the action, sci-fi, or the horror movies like So retrowave is a bit of everything, the past and the future all brought together with the sounds of the 80s, but a lot of them have been amped up for current times.
Okay, this is kind of weird, this episode. It's not really focusing a lot on the audio drama. It's more focusing on, the sound of the 80s.
A bit of everything, the past and the future all brought together with the sounds of the 80s, but a lot of them in sci-fi or the horror movies like they're mostly associated with movies from the 80s, like the action, sci-fi, or the horror movies like...
Okay, I just want to reset this.
Like the action. It was just the soundtrack, like Giorgio Moroder did a lot of scores for movies from the 80s, like the action, sci-fi, or the horror movies like...
Like what?
The Stranger Things soundtrack really brought the retrowave sound... really brought the retrowave genre.
Really brought the retrowave genre.
Really brought the retrowave genre. Really brought the retrowave genre back.
Yeah.
Back. The soundtrack really brought the retrowave genre back.
Okay.
It was just the soundtrack, like Giorgio Moroder did a lot of scores for movies in the 80s, and he's also a pioneer of that kind of sound. It was used in the Stranger Things soundtrack, and more recently in Kung Fury, which...
Okay,
Back, and more recently in Kung Fury, which is actually scored by Zach Robinson from DAD. I think he's one of the co-composers on that. So... And that's become a huge hit for him, and also bringing that sound even more into the mainstream than it was before. Also bringing that sound even more into the mainstream. He's one of the co-composers on that.
Okay, I've got a Kung Fury moment, which I haven't actually got yet, but that should be cool.
Brought the retrowave genre back.
Right, we'll work out what to do there, and that's the end of the influences section now. Let's start with bassline.
So this song that Discovery started with the main melody that's heard off the top after the big synthy ambient intro.
Gr8.
So some of the most common instruments that are used in retrowave are huge snare drums.
Okay, let's add a huge snare drum at this very moment to demonstrate what he means. And I know how to do that. There is a huge snare drum right here. I'm going to use the very end one, I think. This guy here. Why have we got snippets? I don't want snippets. Okay, there. And now we mute everything with a 0.
Than it was before.
Just machine gun sound. Okay, kill the automation on the music channel, and where is he talking about snares? At the beginning of, I guess,
To the main.
first Kung Fury, and then we'll start this section here. And I think we can shift it all up, can't we? Yeah, there. Cool.
So some of the most common instruments that are used in retrowave are huge snare drums.
Okay.
So some of the most common instruments that are used in retrowave are huge snare drums. Lots of reverb, which I am always a big fan. So some of the most common instruments that are used in retrowave are huge snare drums.
We want to show this. Yeah. Okay. The reverb channel. Back to the reverb channel. A lot of reverb, he says.
Lots of reverb, which I am.
Okay. One small thing I have to.
Lots of reverb, which I am always a big fan of. Retro synths like the ones from the 80s is.
Okay, I kind of want to make this a bit more smooth flowing.
Lots of reverb, which I am always a big fan of. Retro synths like the ones from the 80s is always a big fan of. Retro synths like the huge snare drums.
Okay, and then all of this has to come forward a bit.
Snare drums. Lots of
Let's move that forward.
lots of reverb.
There's a bit of a pop on the beginning of this clip.
Lots of reverb, which
Or is it here?
I am always. Lots of reverb, which I am always a big fan of. Lots of reverb, which I am always a big fan of. Huge snare drums. Lots of reverb, which I am. Huge snare drums. Lots of reverb, which I am always a big fan of. Retro synths like the ones from the 80s is. Retro synths like the ones from the 80s is. From the 80s.
Let's just get another snippet of a synth in there. He's got Futura, which just gets a mention later, so we've got space to give it a bit more room here.
Retro synths like the ones from the 80s. I'm always drawn to spacey or ambient. I do a lot of ambient music on the side, so that kind of colored how I approach this. So
Okay, he mentioned spacey or ambient. Do we have a spacey or ambient pad to back up what he's saying? That would be nice. Intro, arps, bass, guitar, synth, melody 2. Let's try that. That's not ambient. Synth main. Yeah, that looks a little bit more ambient. Okay, let's try that.
authentic is the current retrowave problem. Or ambient. I do a lot of ambient music, so that kind of colored how I approach to spacey or ambient. I do a lot of ambient music on the side, so spacey or ambient. I do a lot of ambient music on.
Another cool thing I've realized is what you can do just to clean up your workspace. Why is this guy so... you can open up the track manager, track manager, And you can just hide some of the stuff that you've already used. I haven't used that. Equinox, yeah, all of these things, intro theme. You can just kind of clean it up a bit, make it easier to work with. Okay.
I'm always drawn to spacey or ambient. I do a lot of ambient music on the side, so that kind of colored how I approach this. So I do a lot of ambient. I do a lot of C or ambient.
Once again, I'm going to remove references to
ambient.
him and his own
I do
projects,
and
because this isn't about him
and
or even me, which is why my voice isn't in it.
or ambient.
It's about an experience. It's about a listening experience that's pleasing.
Ambient. So that kind of colored how I approach this. So my take on retrowave isn't as authentic as the current retrowave. Probably it's got a little bit more of an ambient side to it, but that's just how it comes out with me, because that's where all the influences are in, like, Brian Eno's music and other things. All just kind of how it comes out with me, because that's where all
the influences are. I don't mind
or ambient.
As little talking as possible,
because that's where all the influences are in, like, Brian Eno's music and other things, all just kind of mushed together.
Now what I can do is I'd like to get into the track itself. We'll come back to that. Let's do the breakdown next. This piece is labeled guitar.
Some of the other most popular aspects of the music is really distorted, high. Down the song for you and show you some of the individual parts.
Okay. This is actually guitar, so we're going to turn this into... I don't know, I don't even know if we need that. Yeah, let's delete that. And this now becomes breakdown. I'm going to do it quite early in this episode. Normally I leave it to the end, but...
Spacey or ambient.
Because that's what the influences
kind of mushed together. Because that's where all the influences are in, like, Brian Eno's music and other things, all just kind of mushed together.
Okay, now the idea that I've got is to cut everything from that point onwards and reboot. So I'm going to bring in all the stems again, and the idea here is a track by track breakdown. They should line up. Yeah, there you go. Where as he mentions something, you can hear what he's talking about. So
that would be the main lead one.
So I want
to break down the song for you and show you some of the individual parts.
Okay, all of these need to be linked, so I'm going to group them together there. And now we're going to do a sly little sort of fade in from here.
Song for you and show you some of the individual parts. It first started with this synth melody. That would be the main lead one. Okay, I also got to just drop the volume here a bit because it's going to come on quite hot.
Let's just take it down 9 dB or so. Okay.
So I want to break down the song for you and show you some of the individual parts. It first started with this synth melody. And then I brought some arpeggios into it.
Yeah, that's it. Bring in those arpeggios, baby. Only one problem. The arps come in quite late. So now I'm going to have to find a point. 2, 3...
And then I brought some arpeggios in.
Okay, now I split everything from there onwards. And then I skip ahead to where the arps are. And once again, select everything and split it there. It should give me a pretty smooth transition from 1...
And then I brought some arpeggios into it.
Okay, now the problem with this is that it's giving us too much too quickly.
It first started with this synth melody.
Okay, let's take out organ. Let's take out everything and just kind of let the thing breathe a bit.
Parts. It first started with this synth melody,
3, 4.
and then I brought some arpeggios into it.
Okay, once again, a lot has come in, which is fine. I don't mind cheating, but it just seems a bit too much.
And then I brought some arpeggios into it.
Let us take this opportunity to also...
And then I brought some arpeggios into it.
we want to turn crossfade on so that when I click and drag... Oh, wait, no, we first want to... There.
Then I brought some arpeggios into it.
That's nice.
And there's 2 basses going on at the same time here.
No, drums must definitely not happen yet. We just want this guy from here on.
At the same time here. Time here.
I think I've still got reverb on the master, on the music bus. Let's take that down. Oh, I keep doing this. It's not on music, it's on music effects reverb. There you go. Okay, I don't mind remixing his track a bit, so... lots of reverbs. Basically, I've put a reverb.
So I want to
on
break down the
his
song
master.
for you and show you some of the individual parts.
Okay, please do.
It first started with this synth melody.
Synth melody, got you.
And then I brought some arpeggios into it.
Yes.
And there's 2 basses going on at the same time here. Here.
Yeah, now you bring the snare and stuff in, the percussion in. Yeah, this is how you do it. Cool. Next.
The guitar is actually a sampled VST. The guitar is actually a sampled VST.
No, that's not the guitar, that is the main lead, which doesn't happen yet. We want the guitar coming in here. Now we got a problem again. So maybe I want to move the guitar up a bit to when it actually comes in. So this
The
is
string-
kind of a real-time approach, this one. Strings here, yeah.
The strings are an instrument called... The strings are an instrument called Manatron that I have used on practically all my stuff.
Let's just do, sort of, let's cut that. Yeah.
Practically all my stuff. The strings are an instrument called Manatron that I have used on practically all my stuff. Strings are an instrument called Manatron that I have used on practically all my stuff.
Shit. No, I can't cut it in the middle of that bass phrase. That just doesn't sound right.
Used on practically all my stuff.
Let's just take the volume of the strings up at that point, should we? And reuse the volume automation.
All my stuff.
Okay, what's next?
The guitar is actually...
No, we haven't got there yet. Right, what have we got here?
There's an organ pad that's doubling up the main melody and adding a little bit more texture.
Okay. At this point, we want to bring, obviously, the organ in. We'll Z that, open that up.
Sure.
Nope, not yet. Okay, just to illustrate the organ, why don't we take the strings down? Take the organ up. Cool, that's good enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the guitar.
There's a synth called Futura, which is adding that brassy sound.
Oh, I've screwed something up. This is the main sound. And this is just the backing. Alright, then I'm gonna have to delete that and okay, so it works out quite nicely. Okay, first let's unlink it. So I wanna, is it you? Yeah, you to unlink, ungroup, and we start with that, not that. Hello. Oh yeah, it's just because that's soloed. Boom. And this comes out here.
Down the song for you and show you some of the individual parts. It first started with this synth melody.
We'll get the levels right later. Now, there's a part called Futura, which is here.
And there's even a little bit of the vocoder.
What's this? Nothing. Why is he going completely quiet here? Huh, interesting. It's just muted it for some reason. Crazy.
The guitar is actually
That's guitar.
which is adding that brassy sound.
Okay, so the feature actually starts here.
Which is adding that brassy sound.
Start right on that downbeat.
Which is adding that brassy sound.
Okay, take the organ down. So yeah, I'm doing this. I think the whole bass line needs to just come down a bit because it's kind of dominating everything. So I take the whole bass line and open up the volume layer and take it down a bit.
Melody and adding.
What is that? I love that.
Actually a sample. And there's even a little bit of the vocoder in there. Which is an instrument used a lot in Daft Punk. Futura, which is adding that brassy sound.
Vocoder, actually I'm going to cheat the vocoder and bring it forward in time. So there should be one here. 3, 4.
VST. The guitar is actually a sampled VST.
Okay, let's undo all the cheating. I want the vocoder to go back where it was. There we go.
The guitar is actually a sampled VST. A vocoder in there, which is, and there's a little bit of a vocal. The guitar is actually a sampled VST. And there's a little bit of a vocoder in there, which is an instrument used a lot in Daft Punk or Kraftwerk's music.
I've got the timing wrong.
Bit of a vocoder in there, which is an, and there's a little bit of a
I've screwed it up again. Let's make sure I've got this in sync.
Or Kraftwerk's music.
No, I'm not doing myself any favors here, am I?
Kraftwerk's music.
Here's how you tell if the whole thing is in sync or not. What I'm going to do is re-import the stems. here, separate tracks, and then
years. So
it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the vocoder comes in the 3. Tricky, huh?
and there's a
Musical
little bit
editing.
of a vocoder in there, which is an instrument. Daft Punk or Kraftwerk's music.
Let's kill the bass here because it seems to kind of go on too long otherwise.
In Daft Punk or Kraftwerk's music.
There's a lot we can kill here actually. Let's do a general cut of everything right before the vocoder comes in. There we go, splits all, and now mute all. Oops, that's not muting all. Yeah.
Instrument used a lot in Daft Punk or Kraftwerk's music.
Something's still playing. Yes. Yeah.
In Daft Punk or Kraftwerk's music.
That's better because now we've got a bit more
In
input.
Daft Punk or Kraftwerk's music. Punk or Kraftwerk's music. Punk or Kraftwerk's music. A vocoder in there, which is an instrument used a lot in Daft Punk or Kraftwerk's music.
Let's keep one thing going, which is just the Lin drums.
Or Kraftwerk's music. Works music.
Let's keep one more melodic element going.
Music.
No. All of you unlink and just you go forward.
Music.
No, you're too high. Sorry, mate, you're too high. Sorry, you can't come in.
Or
You're too
Kraftwerk's
high.
music.
Nice little delay there, cool.
Or Kraft.
Now that might be a good opportunity to split. There's a nice, feels nice to end it there.
Or Kraftwerk's music.
And we can restart with the drums section. Okay, I'm gonna call it quits for the day, and do the promo video. So that's where I
arpeggios into it. And then I brought some arpeggios into it.
yeah, that's very nice.
The strings are an instrument called manitron that I have used distorted. Like that, I wish if I could play guitar properly, I would have a lot more fun doing this kind of.
There's a moment here where he's like, the guitar, yeah.
The guitar is actually a sampled VST.
And then just that final clip where he's like, I wish I could play guitar.
Yeah, that's another aspect that I wish if I could play guitar properly. If I could play guitar properly, that I wish if I could play guitar. That I wish if I could play guitar properly. I wish if I could play guitar properly, I would T. I wish if I could play guitar properly. I wish if I could play guitar properly, I would have a lot more fun doing this kind of music. And there's a little bit
Give
of
me
a
a call, bro. I'm here. I just got Guitar Rig 6 and it is sounding dope. What I like most about it isn't just obviously the sounds are great. It's the fact that you can search them easily. Like, because I've got a GT6, which is an old Boss multi-effects pedal, like on the floor. And it's like banks of 4. So if you want to find something, it's like next bank, select 1, 2, 3, 4. Next bank, select 1, 2, 3, 4. Next bank. I don't have time to like write out all the patches, and besides, I don't think the sounds are worth it. GT6, use your keyboard. Just like search for hair metal or metal, and it'll give you like 20 patches that, you know, are going to sound better than the GT6 anyway. So as much as I'm reluctant as a guitar guy to switch over to computer-based modeling, it really is quite superior, and nothing gets missed, nothing goes missing, nothing gets lost using computer. Bummer, man.
Kraftwerk's music.
Okay, Kraftwerk. Okay, now.
The top. Which I played slightly differently each time there was the 16 bar pass through, because
I think this is the most interesting part in the discussion, actually. I'm just going to put a pin in this.
So this song that Discovery started with the main melody that's heard off the top after the... And then I like that melody so much, I just copied it over a couple of times and had it just layer upon itself using different instruments to give it some new textures. The next thing that came after that was the bass line, which was written, the bass line.
Okay, let's see if we can cut this piece together. So.
The bass line, which was written, which was
Okay, where are we? We're at intro, which we don't want. We want stems. Let's get all the stems back in here. Thank you. Separate tracks. Now we want to forward them all, link them all up. Oops. Group them all up to where the bass starts. Okay.
Was written, which was the bass line, which I played slightly differently each. The bass line was
played.
Written, which was the bass line, which I played slightly differently.
Okay, the bass line was
played slightly differently each time there was the 16 bar pass through, because the 16 bar pass through, because I couldn't remember what I had played the time before, and I wasn't the time before.
That's cool. Okay, the bass line's the most.
So I was just playing it from beginning to end in real time, and hopefully I didn't make a mistake.
Let's get the Lindrum in there. Let's see, we've already done all of this.
I was writing it and playing it at the same time, and hopefully I didn't make a mistake. I was writing it and playing it at the same time, and this is actually a way they used to do it in the 70s before they had sequencers. They had to play all the parts in real time on real instruments, and if they messed up, they had to go back to the beginning and do it again. But there is something to be said for playing the song from beginning to end and really kind of hearing how the whole thing sounds as it's being composed, as it goes along.
Cool. So I think we've got an angle for this guy. He's kind of a little bit older. I think he was born in the 70s based on our chat. And so we can kind of frame him as a dude who was around before computers.
And playing it mistake.
Didn't make a mistake. What I'm doing is fetching a laugh, which is always useful.
Mistake.
Showing vulnerability is endearing. When listening to a radio show or whatever, you want to encourage people to show their vulnerability.
Make a mistake.
We might actually want to just bring all of the baseline stuff to later, because
the bass line.
All right, then 2, 3, 4, 1.
The bass line was played slightly differently each time, because I couldn't remember what I had played the time before. So I was just playing it from beginning to end in real time, and hopefully I didn't make a mistake. So I was just playing it from beginning to end in real time, and hopefully I didn't make a mistake. was writing it and playing it at the same time. And this is actually a way they used to do it in the 70s before they had sequencers. They had to play all the parts in real time on real instruments, and if they messed up, they had to go back to the beginning and do it again. But there is something to be...
Add something else there. The main lead. Now let's bring the lead in last. What we want is let's bring the vocoder in. And the arps, yeah, the arps are good here. Good.
Had to go back to the beginning and do it again. Instruments, and if they messed up, they had to go back to the beginning and do it again. But their
vocoder is a bit loud.
The beginning and do it again. But there is something to be said for playing the song from beginning to end and really kind of hearing how the whole thing sounds as it's being composed, you know, as it goes along. I've played drums on anything in years, so
why don't we just segue straight into the drums? That's a good idea. Cool. All right, so this might not be the most
action recorded. I can just like hit a button, you know, as it goes along. Well, it's funny. Drums is my first instrument, but I didn't play. I haven't played drums on. Drums is my first instrument. Drums is my first instrument, but I did.
Okay.
Drums. Drums is my first instrument, but
I've got a moment where I mention the snare. That's here.
So up till halfway through the song, I'm using a Linn drum machine for the bass, for the kick, and for the clap sounds. But then I really wanted this next level to come in with the snare. So I have this huge snare drum.
No, actually, let's save that for the after story.
Because I can't replicate it in the studio, the little studio. There are no actual live drums on this because I wanted to have the authentic 80s drum sound, which means the bass line was played slightly differently each time because I couldn't remember what I had played the time before. So I was just playing it from beginning to end in real time and hopefully didn't make a mistake. I was writing it and playing it at the same time. And this is actually a way they used to do it in the 70s before they had sequencers. They had to play all the parts in real time on real instruments, and if they messed up, they had to go back to the beginning and do it again.
That's good enough.
But there is something to be said for playing the song from beginning to end and really kind of hearing how the whole thing sounds as it's being composed, you know, as it goes along. In the 70s before,
Okay.
Because I couldn't remember what I had played the time before.
Let's just start
So
there.
I was just playing it from beginning to end in real time and hopefully didn't make a mistake.
That's cool. All right, we've got a working. No, we just need to lock that. Okay, cool. I think I'm going to end the stream and start doing some of the sort of promotional bouncing and stuff. So please lock. Thank you. Why do you bring up the lock settings every time? Time selection. Yes, there. That's right. Lock, unlock, yeah. Cool. That's about it for the stream. You got the idea of how I'm doing this. It's very tight, a musical, well-timed sort of editing process, which is bringing this composer's interview audio to life. And yeah, the focus is on creating a listening experience and not necessarily, a high-profile guest or anything like that. This is about the audio on its own, regardless of who's speaking. It's the aim of the show, at least. So yeah, thanks for tuning in if you tuned in, and otherwise check the video on YouTube when it's done. And this is How I Make Music, the editing of episode 84, which will be out on Wednesday. Peace out.